So here at Buckingham Palace, we're marking Her Majesty the Queen's Platinum Jubilee in this historic year in the Queen's reign with an exhibition which looks right back at the beginning of her reign to the time of the accession. And the exhibition focuses on the first portraits ever taken of Her Majesty at that time, displayed alongside the jewels that we see Her Majesty wearing in those portraits.
I'm 75 today, and in all my years, I don't recall a time when anyone but the Queen stood as the center of calm in the chaos, until now. What started as hushed voices behind royal walls quickly spiraled into the kind of storm the monarchy hadn't faced since Diana's time. It began quietly, an advisor's odd silence, a missed visit to Balmoral, a hallway conversation that stopped when someone entered. Subtle, but unmistakable signs that something wasn't quite right. After Queen Elizabeth II's passing,
a few moments ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II.
The world assumed the final chapter had been written. Her will, released with great ceremony, appeared to follow the royal script, dignified, fair, and traditional. Crowns, heirlooms, and estates were distributed in a way that reflected duty and legacy. But behind palace doors, a different truth was emerging. According to multiple high-level sources, what the public witnessed was only part of the story. There was more. A second document, legal, confidential, and devastating in its implications, allegedly existed. Not a duplicate, but an entirely separate final will, signed by the Queen herself, in private. And it changed everything. If what insiders claim is accurate, Queen Camilla, Charles's wife, and now Queen Consort, was left almost entirely out of this hidden document. Instead, the late monarch's personal inheritance, including priceless jewels, select titles, royal estates, and even unofficial roles, were discreetly passed to Catherine, the Princess of Wales. This wasn't about petty favoritism. It was legacy architecture, a deliberate, final gesture from a monarch known for her subtle authority. Elizabeth, it seemed, envisioned Kate as the face of the next era, not just by marriage, but by merit. When this information leaked to those within the Queen's inner circle, chaos followed. Lawyers were summoned without delay, trusted aides went silent, and Camilla? Sources say she erupted, furious, blindsided, and betrayed. One confidant claimed her reaction was so intense that palace staff were ordered to leave the wing where she stayed. She allegedly lashed out, not only at the Queen's memory, but at Charles himself. Kate, meanwhile, was quietly pulled back from public view. No dramatic announcements, no official comments, just a subtle disappearance, while her inner circle was told to stay composed and silent. Over the years, Queen Elizabeth's quiet admiration for Catherine became something deeper, an unspoken partnership shaped not by blood, but by trust. Gradually, and without fanfare, the Queen began bringing Kate into spaces traditionally reserved for senior royals. At state dinners and high-level meetings, where cameras were rare and protocol rigid, Catherine began to appear, not as a guest, but as a future anchor of the firm. Behind the scenes, the Queen extended something even more intimate: personal mentorship. Whispered accounts suggest handwritten notes, carefully worded and sealed with the Queen's crest, were exchanged with Kate. These weren't royal instructions, they were glimpses into Elizabeth's private reflections. One such letter, reportedly written after the birth of Princess Charlotte, praised Kate's resilience.
A baby princess is welcomed into the world. The Duke beaming beside her as they emerged from St Mary's Hospital with their little girl, 8 pounds, 3 ounces.
Calling her a mother the crown will one day remember with gratitude. For a monarch known for emotional restraint, this was extraordinary. Then came a string of quiet but powerful gestures. On Kate and William's 10th wedding anniversary, the Queen gifted Catherine a diamond brooch once belonging to Queen Mary, an heirloom never seen on Camilla, nor offered to Princess Anne. It wasn't just about inheritance, it was about signaling allegiance. A message not shouted, but whispered between generations. "You are the future." Their bond was reinforced by shared values: duty, grace, and discretion. When William was away, Kate often visited Windsor with the children, not to be seen, but to be present. Sources say these moments softened the Queen's famously stern demeanor. It wasn't just about George and Charlotte. It was Kate who made those visits meaningful. In contrast, the Queen's connection with Camilla remained distant, even after years of public acceptance. Royal aides privately admitted that while Elizabeth extended formal courtesy, she never fully embraced Camilla. The scars of the past, the scandal, the shadow over Diana, never fully healed. Elizabeth, deeply traditional, once confided to a close companion that she believed Charles's marriage to Camilla had dimmed the crown's moral light. She didn't oppose it publicly, but in private, she drew a line. So when the time came to shape her legacy, beyond protocol, beyond performance, Elizabeth made a quiet but profound decision. She chose Catherine. Sources say this preference crystallized in the final year of her life, not just emotionally, but legally. Behind closed doors, a second will was drafted. This wasn't a ceremonial document for the public record. This was a final expression of personal truth, crafted away from the pressures of politics and tradition. Few knew it existed, even fewer had seen it, but whispers of it echoed down the palace halls like a royal ghost. If the accounts are accurate, the document reassigns private jewels, trusts, and roles to Kate, items considered part of the Queen's personal empire, not the state's. It defied the narrative everyone expected. It bypassed Camilla, and it made one thing brutally clear: the hidden will, a quiet coronation. As whispers of Queen Elizabeth's private will surfaced, so too did its most shocking revelation. Camilla's name had been quietly removed from nearly all of the monarch's most treasured personal possessions. These weren't state-owned artifacts, but deeply personal items, symbols of legacy, sentiment, and trust. Catherine, the Princess of Wales, reportedly received a selection of royal jewelry once presumed destined for the Queen Consort. Among them were select pieces from the Queen Mother's personal collection, rarely seen by the public, and more astonishingly, rumored access to the Delhi Durbar tiara. This historical masterpiece, worn by Queen Mary during a pivotal moment in British imperial history, had not graced a royal head in decades. It was more than a jewel. It was a symbol of continuity. And now, it was said to be Catherine's. But the inheritance didn't stop at diamonds. Sources inside Windsor whispered that Sandringham's summer villa, a beloved royal retreat often reserved for the Queen's personal downtime, had not been left to King Charles, nor to Princess Anne as many predicted. Instead, it was reportedly gifted to William and Kate, with handwritten instructions for it to remain a haven for the young Windsors. This wasn't simply real estate. It was a signal of generational passing. The Queen wasn't just handing down property. She was entrusting her peace. Even more startling was the reported existence of a private archive, handwritten diaries and personal letters penned by Queen Elizabeth herself over the span of decades. And those, according to inside sources, were left entirely to Catherine. If confirmed, these letters would offer a view into the Queen's inner life, her decisions, regrets, and hopes. And the fact that they were entrusted to Kate, not Charles, not Anne, was seen by many as a profound declaration, a spiritual endorsement, a silent crowning of the woman she believed embodied the future. A former aide, once part of the Queen's inner circle, confirmed that the final will had been sealed and stored in a private vault accessible only by a select few. Among those given clearance were King Charles and Princess Anne, but conspicuously not Camilla. Charles, while outwardly composed, was said to be shaken, not by what he received, but by what Camilla didn't. For years, he had worked tirelessly to legitimize Camilla's place beside him. But in the Queen's private legacy, that place was subtly erased. Insiders described it not just as favoritism, but as an intentional act. a statement made without a single spoken word. Within the firm, the implications spread quickly. This wasn't about wealth. It wasn't even about jewels. It was about legacy, trust, and moral continuity. And in Elizabeth's eyes, Catherine embodied them all. She wasn't just the wife of the future king. She was the keeper of the crown's dignity. In a monarchy where every gesture is calculated, the private will was more than an inheritance. Camilla's breaking point. The queen, ever the strategist, had ensured that her private will was executed flawlessly. Anticipating backlash, she took care to separate state assets from personal possessions, making legal challenges nearly impossible. Everything was done by the book, and yet no law could soften the sting of what wasn't said. For Camilla, it wasn't about being denied material treasures. It was the silence, the absence of a personal letter. No note of gratitude, no mention of cherished heirlooms meant for her keeping. After a lifetime spent clawing her way into royal favor, from scandal to acceptance, being overlooked in the Queen's final message was more than a slight. It was a verdict. What happened inside Clarence House that evening was never meant to leave its walls, but even the palace's most seasoned aides struggled to contain what unfolded. According to insiders, Charles had just returned from a private legal briefing when he delivered the news, not formally, but in hushed tones across the drawing room, and Camilla's reaction was immediate. She didn't cry, she screamed. The sound, said one staffer, echoed through the corridors with such force it startled the guards outside. It wasn't grief, the staffer recalled. It was betrayal, deep, personal, unforgiving. She had worked so hard, endured the tabloids,